You can't see your hand in front of your face. The water is 38 degrees. You're 180 feet below the surface of the Gulf of Mexico, and somewhere in front of you is a pipeline weld that has to be inspected, or a valve that has to be turned, or a section of steel that has to be cut and replaced. Your dive supervisor is talking in your ear. Your air supply runs through an umbilical cord tethered to a boat you can no longer see. You have about 25 minutes before a nitrogen buildup starts becoming a problem. This is Tuesday. Commercial divers work in conditions most people can't imagine, on infrastructure most people never think about. Oil platforms, bridges, dams, nuclear power plants, shipyards. Without them, America's underwater world stops functioning. So how much does a commercial diver actually make? And is the money worth what this job costs you? There are roughly 4,800 commercial divers employed in the United States, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That number sounds small, and it is. This is one of the rarest skilled trades in the country. For comparison, there are more nuclear power plant operators than there are working commercial divers. They operate across three main sectors: offshore oil and gas, platforms in the Gulf of Mexico, the coasts of Alaska, and offshore construction projects, inland and civil work, dams, bridges, water treatment plants, port infrastructure, and specialized industrial work, nuclear plant cooling systems, underwater welding and cutting, salvage operations. About a third of all commercial divers work in the oil and gas sector. That's the highest paying lane, and also the most physically brutal. Inland work is steadier, often year-round, and pays less. Industrial diving, think nuclear facilities or specialized salvage, sits somewhere in between with additional hazard premiums. The job requires formal training. You cannot walk onto a dive boat with a recreational scuba certification and start working. Commercial diving school runs 6 to 12 months depending on program depth, and the Association of Diving Contractors International, the ADCI, sets the certification standards most employers require before day one. This is a small profession. It is physically demanding in ways that are hard to overstate, and the pay range is enormous. From a first-year diver making $45,000 to a saturation diver clearing over $200,000 a year. What you earn depends almost entirely on where you work and how deep you're willing to go. Let's start with what BLS actually reports. The median annual wage for commercial divers in the United States is approximately $67,000 as of the most recent occupational data. The bottom 10% earn around $38,000. The top 10% earn $110,000 or more, but those numbers flatten a range that is actually one of the widest in any skilled trade. Entry level, a first-year commercial diver coming out of dive school, doing inland work, tending lines, running air supply, doing simple inspections, can expect $18 to $22 per hour. That puts year one earnings around $37,000 to $45,000, depending on how many hours they find. And hours are not guaranteed. Inland diving is often seasonal and project-based. Some entry-level divers spend 6 months building experience before landing steady work. Mid-career, a diver with 5 to 10 years of experience, certified in underwater welding or non-destructive testing, NDT inspection work on pipelines and structures, moves into a different bracket entirely. Offshore work in the Gulf of Mexico for a saturation diving contractor typically pays $600 to $900 per day for surface supply dive work. A typical offshore rotation runs 28 days on, 28 days off. That's 13 rotations a year, roughly $218,000 to $328,000 at the high end. Most divers don't hit those numbers consistently, but a skilled mid-career diver working steady offshore can realistically gross $80,000 to $130,000 per year. Top earners, saturation divers. This is where the numbers become genuinely hard to believe. Saturation diving, or SAT diving, involves living in a pressurized chamber on a dive vessel for weeks at a time, breathing a helium-oxygen mix, descending to depths of 600, 800, sometimes 1,000 feet. You eat, sleep, and breathe pressure for an entire rotation. When you surface, it takes days of decompression. SAT divers in the offshore oil sector earn a saturation pay premium on top of their daily rate, typically an additional $1 to $2 per foot of depth per day. At 1,000 feet for a 28-day rotation, that's an extra $28,000 on top of their base rate. Total annual compensation for an experienced SAT diver, $180,000 to $280,000. Some exceed that. Pay structure. Most offshore divers are paid as day rate contractors, not salaried employees. That means no paid vacation, no sick days, and gaps between contracts hit the bank account directly. Union divers, primarily through the IUOE, International Union of Operating Engineers, have better baseline protections, stronger hourly floors, and defined benefit structures. Non-union divers trade those protections for flexibility and often higher ceiling rates. The actual paycheck. A diver grossing $100,000 offshore needs to account for federal and self-employment taxes as a contractor, around 30%, dive gear maintenance, $2,000 to $5,000 a year, certification renewals, and travel to Slash from the Gulf or project sites. Net take-home on a $100,000 gross is closer to $65,000 to $70,000. Real money, but not the six-figure lifestyle the headline suggests. A surface-supplied offshore dive shift starts before the sun does. 4:30 a.m. You're on deck. The dive supervisor has already run a pre-dive checklist. You review the job packet, a pipeline inspection at 140 feet, one section showing possible corrosion on an external visual from the last ROV pass. Your job is to get eyes and hands on it. No robot can run its fingers along a weld the way you can. 5 a.m. You're dressed in. Commercial dive gear is not a wetsuit and a tank. It's a dry suit, a hot water suit underneath pumping heated water from the surface when temperatures demand it, a Kirby Morgan or Divex band mask sealed to your head, and an umbilical running back to the surface that carries your breathing gas, your communications line, your video feed, and your safety tether. The whole rig weighs around 90 pounds on the surface. Underwater, it's neutral. On the ladder, climbing down, it's not. 5:20 a.m. You're in the water. Visibility is 4 feet. Gulf of Mexico bottom conditions aren't like a dive resort in the Bahamas. The water here is green, silty, stirred up by current and tides. You navigate by feeling the pipeline under your hands and by compass. The supervisor in your ear is calm, professional, talking you through landmarks. You've done this stretch before. At depth, sounds change. Your voice shifts. Helium in your breathing mix makes you sound like a cartoon character, a thing every commercial diver accepts and nobody ever quite gets used to. Communication is a skill. You learn to articulate slowly and clearly because your supervisor has to understand, I've got a crack, northeast face, 3 inches, about midway up the flange, through a distorted audio link while writing it on a slate. You find the anomaly. It's not a crack, it's a scratch. Probably impact from a dropped tool during the last installation. You photograph it, note the dimensions, run your hands around the surrounding weld. Clean. You report back. 12 minutes of bottom time to confirm something the platform engineers needed confirmed. 7 a.m. You're on deck. The decompression obligation at 140 feet means a controlled ascent stops at depth for set intervals to off-gas safely. Total time in the water, 47 minutes. You've done 3 dives this rotation. The rest of your day is maintenance, debriefs, equipment checks, and watching the ocean. That's the thing no recruitment brochure mentions: the waiting. Commercial divers describe the job as long stretches of boredom punctuated by brief periods of intense focus. Offshore rotations mean 28 days on a platform or vessel, often with only a few hours of actual dive time per week. The rest is standby. You are a human piece of safety-critical equipment kept ready. The pay is real. So are the costs. Physical, decompression sickness, the bends, occurs when nitrogen or helium dissolved in the bloodstream comes out of solution too quickly during ascent. In severe cases, it causes joint pain, paralysis, stroke, and death. Modern dive planning and computerized decompression tables have made this rarer, but it is never zero. Commercial divers are statistically far more likely to experience decompression incidents than recreational divers, simply due to depth and frequency of dives. Long-term, the job is hard on joints. Knees and shoulders bear the brunt of suits, gear, and ladder work. Hearing damage from underwater noise exposure, particularly in industrial environments with cutting and demolition equipment, is a documented occupational hazard. Hypothermia risk, even with hot water suits, is real in colder water assignments. And nitrogen narcosis, a state of cognitive impairment similar to alcohol intoxication that occurs at depth, is a managed risk every deep diver navigates. BLS data rates commercial diving as one of the more dangerous occupations in the country. The fatality rate is roughly 40 per 100,000 workers, compared to 3.4 per 100,000 for the national all-industry average. This is not a job where risk is theoretical. Career ceiling. Most commercial divers have a working life of 20 to 25 years in the water. By their mid-40s to early 50s, the cumulative physical toll, joint wear, hearing loss, the history of pressure exposure, starts to foreclose deep water work. The ones who plan for this transition into supervision, dive safety officer roles, or inspection management. The ones who don't can find themselves at 52 without a marketable skill set outside the water. The lifestyle. Offshore rotation means 28 days away from home, 28 days back, year after year. Relationships end over this schedule. Divers describe missing birthdays, anniversaries, school plays, and hospital visits, not occasionally, but as a structural feature of the job. Some partners adapt, many don't. Getting in. Commercial dive school costs $10,000 to $20,000 for a full program, depending on the institution. The top programs: Divers Institute of Technology in Seattle, the Ocean Corporation in Houston, run around $17,000 to $20,000 and include surface supply, scuba, underwater welding, and NDT basics. Most graduates take out loans. The first 2 years of working income, inconsistent inland rate pay, don't pay those loans off fast. Why they stay? Despite all of it, the quit rate among experienced commercial divers is low. The money, obviously, but also, and divers will tell you this unprompted, the identity. There are 4,800 people in America who can do this job. That number lives in a diver's chest. You don't leave something like that easily. So, is it worth it? Here is an honest answer. This job is right for you if you are physically durable, you like working with your hands in high-stakes environments, and you genuinely don't mind solitude. If you're someone who wants to see your paycheck double every 5 years based purely on skill and willingness to go deeper, this path can get you there. If you find meaning in maintaining infrastructure that the rest of the country depends on but never sees, bridges holding, pipelines flowing, platforms standing, commercial diving offers something most jobs don't: the sense that when you're done, something is fixed that would otherwise fail. The ceiling for those who make it to saturation work is legitimately extraordinary. $200,000 a year, working 6 months of actual on time. For someone without a college degree, it is one of the highest earning skilled positions in the American trades. This job will destroy you if you have a family and you're not prepared, genuinely prepared, not just optimistic, for what 28-day offshore rotations will do to it. The divorce rate among offshore workers broadly runs high, and commercial divers aren't exempt. If you need stable hours, a predictable paycheck, or proximity to medical care for health conditions, this is the wrong field. And if you're attracted to the money, but not the actual underwater work, the claustrophobia, the zero visibility, the physical weight of the gear, you will know by the end of training, and it's better to know then than on a platform in the Gulf. So, is it worth it for the right person? Yes. Clearly, yes, the money is real, the work is rare. The identity it gives you is something money genuinely can't replicate. But the right person is specific, physically tough, psychologically self-sufficient, and clear-eyed about what the schedule does to the parts of life that happen on land. Most people who start commercial diving training will not be working dives a decade later. The ones who tend to describe it as the only job they ever could have done. That's not a sales pitch. That's just what they say. Every bridge you've driven across, every offshore platform keeping your gas prices where they are, every dam holding back a reservoir, somewhere, at some point, a commercial diver was down there, making sure it held. If you work in commercial diving, drop your experience in the comments. We read every one.